Hey guys, Jake here. Welcome back to the Dude Ranch. I just got home from work. The rain cleared up a bit and the sun is starting to come out. I'm starting to see some blue in the skies. And I just got back to the wood yard and I wanted to go over a debate that I've always had in my head. Which is better, splitting large diameter wood or small diameter wood? There's positives and negatives to both. I can't really come up in my mind with a clear winner, but I thought we could maybe discuss some positives and negatives to both small and large diameter wood when you're splitting. For me, I personally enjoy splitting smaller diameter wood because it goes right through the splitter pretty quick. You don't really have to hassle with moving it around and jockeying it around by hand to get it onto the splitter and the log lift arm. But you only get 4, 5, maybe 6 pieces out of a small 12 to 14 inch diameter piece, whereas with a larger big round, as you'll see later, you can get 20, 30 pieces out of one single round of wood. But then again, you have to get it onto the splitter and it's heavy and kind of a pain to maneuver, whereas a small diameter piece is nice and light. You can pick it up easily, get it onto that log lift arm, put maybe 10 pieces on and breeze through those 10 and then load up another 10, and you're not really exerting all that much energy. Another thing I thought I'd discuss quickly is I could go through some of the things that I personally use when splitting firewood, some of the tools I always have with me, either on the ATV like I'm on today, or the tractor, which is actually at the dealership right now getting a new goodie installed on it, which I'll be sure to have a video, probably multiple, on in the near future. Okay, so here's some of the things that I always carry with me when I'm coming back to split firewood. First, and most importantly, a chainsaw. This one that I have right now is the Stihl MS362 with a 25-inch bar. I always like to keep it nice and sharp, and it's a great saw for the size wood that I generally encounter. Not too big where it's hard to handle and gets really heavy, but not too small where it feels underpowered going through hardwood like red oak and sugar maple and stuff like that. The next thing I always like to carry with me is the peavey. Peavey is a great tool. I use it all the time. It can be used to roll logs if you gotta get to the bottom side to finish cutting through a round. It can be used to jockey logs around if you need to get them to the log splitter. It's a great tool. It provides a lot of leverage, way more leverage than you would ever think. You can move big logs with it. I was moving some of these logs yesterday when I was cutting them into rounds and rolling them with ease with just one person. I was by myself, and it's a great tool that I love, and I never go into the woods without it. The next thing is my toolbox. In here, I have all sorts of goodies. I have a spare wheel for the Mingo marker, which I'll get to, my chainsaw filing kit, a couple odds and ends, wrenches, scrunch, always important to have, chainsaw sharpening, file guide, Sharpie, just some random things that I like to keep with me at all times. Then you got your bar oil, your mix, your grease gun to grease up the log splitter before every use, and the always important chainsaw chaps. Whenever I use a chainsaw, I either wear my chaps if I'm wearing regular pants, or I'll be wearing my Arborwear Ironwood chainsaw pants, which have the protection built in. The next thing, and the newest addition to my bag of tricks, is the Mingo marker. This is a new tool that I just got in the mail the other day, and it holds a can of spray paint on the inside, and you roll it down the log and it marks a little mark. Depending on what size wheel you have, it can go from 14 all the way up to 24 inches, and it puts a little mark at the designated length, and it makes it super easy to then go and just cut up into rounds. So here is the Rugged Made Rugged Split RS 737 push through style log splitter. It's the biggest one of their model lineup. It has a 13 horsepower Lithan motor with an electric start. And for those of you that don't know, Lithan is essentially a knockoff brand of Honda, and all Honda parts can be used in the motor. It has a nice big hydraulic cylinder there, and it's push-through style, which means that you put a log in and it pushes it through to the sorting table, and then you can put the next one on, and if the previous log hasn't split all the way, the next log that you split will continue to push it through. It has a nice bipod leg which folds up, which is nice, especially for logs like this in the back, this large red oak. It really makes the splitter stable when lifting it up. And it has the log lift arm, which they say on the website can lift up to about 400 pounds. The log lift arm, this end part right here, detaches by taking out a bolt on either side and then folds up for easy transport, as well as the log sorting table detaches with 2 bolts, and when you want to travel with it on your trailer, you simply bolt it on here, reverse the other way, and it will then be over the top for easy transport. Overall, it's been a great splitter. I bought it used off of a gentleman about 1.5 years ago. Before this, I had a 27-ton Troy-built horizontal/vertical splitter, and it was great as well. But since I started doing firewood and heating the house with a wood stove, I decided it was time to upgrade. Another great feature this splitter has is a retention plate or retraction plate. It has 2 different settings, 20-inch and 24-inch. So if you're splitting smaller wood, most of the wood that I split is to cut to 18 inches. It will automatically hit that plate and pop back your cylinder so that you're ready to go for the next one, so it doesn't have to cycle all the way through, wasting valuable time. A great feature that they advertise on their website, yet I have not done, is that the entire splitter, the log lift arm, can be moved to the other side. This little bracket right here, which holds the logs from rolling off, can unbolt and be flipped to the other side, as can the log lift arm and hydraulic cylinder. The hoses can be rerouted to the other side, so depending on your application and where you're splitting, it can be reversed if you need the log lift arm on the opposite side. For me, it's easy enough to just move the splitter around. If I'm splitting over here, it works great because the logs are there. I used to be splitting over on this side, and I had the splitter oriented the other way so that the arm was on the other way. Just a neat feature that I haven't really seen on other log splitters. They're based out of Boston, Massachusetts. That's where their headquarters is. When I've ordered parts for this in the past, they've shipped directly from Boston and gotten here, believe it or not, in less than a day. I'm in southern Connecticut, so it's kind of close, but it's nice to know that parts are on hand when you need them. Yesterday after work, I cut up a bunch of this pretty big red oak log that's been sitting here for the past couple months. So now I'm gonna fire up the Rugged Made 37-ton log splitter and split some of it. So as you can see, the Rugged Split RS737 goes through those big rounds of red oak pretty easily. The hardest thing about splitting wood that big for me, especially when you're by yourself, is when you split it that first time and you're splitting it in half, making sure that the two pieces don't fall off the log sorting table, and just moving the pieces around, getting them back on the log lift arm. It's kind of difficult with one person, especially with wood that large. So that's definitely a drawback. As I stated before, it is nice though. You saw how many pieces I got out of just those 2 rounds. Had to have at least been about 60 pieces. So that's a good thing. It's longer to cut it, more fuel. In larger trees, you typically can find more nails and stuff like that since they're so old. But all in all, a larger piece of wood, I think, is probably more difficult than some of this smaller ash that you're going to see me split in a minute. As you can see, the Rugged Split RS737 made real quick work of that ash. As I said before, when it's nice, smaller diameter, about 12 to 14 inches, it breezes right through it with the 4-way wedge, and you really only have to put it through once or twice to get that optimal firewood size. Around here, we burn about 18-inch pieces, and we split them sometimes small like this, and other times a little bit larger like this or this. And I like to call those all-nighters. We'll put them in the stove before bed, and they keep the stove nice and hot all night with big burning coals and embers once we get up in the morning. So we just went through a bunch of big diameter red oak and smaller diameter ash. And at the beginning of the video, I mentioned a debate that's been going on in my head for a while now about which is better, or if there is a clear winner, if large diameter wood that you get a lot of pieces out of just a couple rounds is better than small diameter wood where you only get 4 to 6 pieces out of a 12 to 14 inch piece. And I just split a bunch there, and I think it's pretty clear that the smaller diameter ash was much easier on my back and the splitter to go through than that larger diameter red oak, despite the fact that you get so many more pieces out of those big rounds. You're fighting for 20 minutes with 2 big pieces, whereas you could have 30 smaller pieces and split almost the equivalent amount of wood in the same time. There was one big piece there that actually got stuck on the 2-way wedge, and I couldn't get it off. I actually had to think for a second about what the best way to get it off would be. I was about to grab the PV, but I actually then thought, oh, this is a push-through splitter. Why don't I just get a smaller diameter piece that I can easily lift up and put on the splitter to then push that bigger piece off? And that's what I did, and it ended up working great. But I think overall, like I have been kind of thinking to myself in the past, I'm going to start straying away from the larger, big wood, just because it's harder on machinery to get it into the trailer, to then get the trailer over here and dump it and cut it and you know, roll it onto the splitter. I think just in every aspect of the wood splitting hobby that I have, splitting smaller diameter wood, you know, say 20 inches and below, is just infinitely easier than having to jockey around the big pieces, especially when I'm by myself. If you have a second person here to help you, then that's a different story. Or if you have two other people to help you, then, you know, that makes it even easier. But I think in general, even if you have three people, it's easier for everybody to be doing their own job. One person operating the splitter, one person feeding the splitter, and the other person stacking it into either the pile or the IBC totes, or just clearing that feed tray. So that's it for today. If you guys have any comments about what you guys think or what you do at home, if you're splitting large diameter wood or small diameter wood, and what you think is easier or more efficient, leave them in the comments below. And we'll see you next time here at the Dude Ranch.